Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Earth Rising, where we get funky. We have so much fun here on New Earth Rising. We talk about all different kinds of topics. Today, we're going to talk about ETs. And I am Michele Amburgey, the Awakener. And I'm super happy to be here with you. And my co-shenanigator, Sharon, I never know what side she's on, is here as well. And we've got Kendra with us. Kendra, your last name is Jonas, right?
That's right.
I didn't get in there to tease you about being part of the Jonas Brothers, but I'll get to that very soon. So we're going to talk about some really cool stuff today. Kendra's got some information. She was talking a little bit ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like new cool stuff. So I cannot wait to get this going. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell down there so you get notified of when we've got stuff coming in. We are live every fourth Thursday, and we put videos out. We put YouTubes out every single week. So we got all kinds of fun stuff. So without further ado, Sharona, take it away.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you. I am really happy to be here again as well, and excited once more to talk to Kendra. Hey, Kendra, thank you for being here.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Michele. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is so cool.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to get into our conversation. I'm going to read your bio right now, just to give people a little bit of a heads up about what we're going to talk about and what you've done. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Kendra Jonas is an author, website designer, organite artist, public speaker, and a channeler for extraterrestrial intelligence. Kendra's interest in higher consciousness stems from having multiple encounters with ETs and light beings, one of which gave her the 7 principles of I Am, which became the material for her book entitled The Link. Kendra continues to share information from her book to help others gain momentum towards 5th dimensional consciousness, while she also regularly channels a 5th dimensional light being named Melody, who offers clarity during times of contrast and polarization. Kendra lives in Portland, Oregon with her husband and 3 sons, and continues to channel Melody at public events and groups, and also offers one-on-one private sessions as well. And her website is kendrajonas.com, and I'll also put all her social media links down in the details. So that's so exciting. Kendra and I have known each other a while now. How long has it been? 6 years? Six years?
About right.
Yeah. We met at a paranormal pub type of event here in the Portland area, where she was presenting her book, The Link.
Ooh, The Link.
Really good book. And I had presented the week before about out-of-body experiences. And so we were the first women to actually, I was so excited, the first women to actually present there, because it was a MUFON, McMinimans type of thing. People in Portland, if you're in the Portland area, you know, Mission Theater, where they used to have paranormal pub night, and I guess they quit doing it. And so that's where we connected a long time ago.
How fun.
Yeah.
It was about 6 years to the day, because I remember it was October 2016. Does that sound right? I had, because we got this little poster, so I can remember the date.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I have mine up here too, and mine was in May. Was it October? Okay, mine was May.
Maybe we were a few months apart then, but I got to see yours. Yeah. That was really neat.
That was. So Kendra, tell us about yourself and what brought you to write the book and your experiences. I'd love to hear about your extraterrestrial experiences. I know you've had them all your life, right? And that you remember being part of the hybrid program and things like that. So share that if you would.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So this has been a part of my whole life. I mean, I was wired and my DNA is altered and all of that to have contact with these guys. They're actually related to me. I consider myself a hybrid, even though they never came right out and said that, use that language, hybrid. That is how I identify myself, because I know that they're my family. and so I had a few childhood experiences, but nothing where I really knew as a kid, oh, I'm being visited by aliens. I had some, supernatural things and some high sensitivities and psychic abilities, and I kind of felt different growing up. Especially high school was tough for me. I never really felt like I fit in. And I think a lot of hybrid kids or people feel that way. Like they know that they're different. And then it's sort of this unfolding process. So you just kind of go through your life. Maybe you feel different, but you just sort of find your way in a different ways, So, I tend to see myself more like somebody that listens more to intuition as my guide rather than, looking at academics or cognitive ways of sort of getting through life. So I've kind of just sort of had this openness with my heart chakra, or this ability to connect to symbols, to language, to information that's beyond this realm. And it took me probably my whole lifetime to really understand, that's how I communicate. That's how I get information. And one of my experiences, even back when I was in my 20s, that's when things were really, really active for me with the Greys in particular. I was part of this hybrid program, and the Greys frequently visited me. It was so often. Sometimes it was 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes there'd be a break in between, maybe I get a week where nothing, but it was a lot of activity, a lot of visits that went on until maybe my mid 30s. So sort of during my reproductive years was when things were the most active.
Melody, can I interrupt? When they come to you, are they coming to you physically coming to you, or is it an etheric experience?
Yeah, well, with the Greys, it's actually both. There were some actual out of body experiences where they just take me, they just want to interact with the soul part of me. So I got very comfortable through these visits being out of body. It was so common, but other times there were very physical things that they needed to do. So I would say it was about a 50-50 split that way. Half the time it was out of body, half the time it was physical, and I was actually taken from my bed, and on a ship. So.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been amazing. I've learned so much just from having these experiences with them over the years. And some people really fear the Greys. They're like, oh, these are, they're taking people, they're taking, sperm and eggs from women and men and against our will. And they're doing this hybrid program so that they can, take over the world. And that's what Hollywood sort of tells people. I mean, you get all these sci-fi movies that really reinforce that idea. And I'm not saying there's not maybe negative Greys out there. I know that I have met some not so nice reptilian types. I have met that type of thing as well, but never have I personally met a Grey that was malevolent or evil or, now this isn't to say that the experiences didn't scare the heck out of me sometimes.
I was just going
I'm
to
a
ask
human.
that.
Yeah, I was going to ask too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
this was
scared.
oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting how much I remind myself of sort of being like a lab rat or something, or an
Mhm.
animal sometimes, where the fight or flight kicks in. So what would usually happen is, especially if they had to do a physical experiment or something with me, is I would be paralyzed. I wouldn't be able to move. And I absolutely hated that experience. Nobody wants to not be able to move. It's scary. And then all of a sudden you see the beings in your room, with the big eyes, and they're not human. And so the panic does happen. And I went through years of that kind of experience where it was really scary. But looking back on it, every single experience that I had, there was this things that they would do to try to calm me, to try to make me as comfortable as possible. And it's not the kind of emotional intelligence or what we would expect from another human. Like if you go to the doctor and there's a nurse or a doctor, one of the things that we all talk about is what kind of bedside manner did these people have? Did they care about you, and did they treat you well? That's the first thing that we want, is that kind of compassion. when we're dealing with human beings. So when the grays don't have the same wiring in their brain to have this emotional, what we call intelligence, but they're extremely left brain. So they have this extremely advanced left brain hemisphere where they are just super logical, super intelligent. So they would do things like measure, my vital signs to see how, stressed I was. And they would, when I was really stressed out from an experience, they would, before I was allowed to wake up and come back into my body or fully awake, they would have me dream that I was telling my husband, running around to the other side of the bed, waking him up and telling him about my experience. And they would loop the same dream about 6 to 8 times. And each time they looped it, they would check my vitals. Is she calming down? Is she releasing Pitocin? Because Pitocin is that hormone that helps us stay calm when we are able to talk about things. So when I was waking him up saying, oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened. The Greys were here and they took me on a ship and it was really scary and this happened. They would have me repeat this thing over and over until I was finally just, okay, I've said this now 10 times. And they were okay and then with it. And so they allowed me to wake up and then there's my husband, he's sleeping there. I'm going to tell him what happened. But I was at that point, not in a total panic state. I was calm. So to me, that showed that they did care. They have compassion, but they don't relate like us because they're not our species. They live in a different world. And so for us to expect them to be just like a human being when we relate with them, it's very difficult.
Do you think, Kendra, if I may interrupt for a second, do you think that perhaps, I don't know, the thought just came to me as you were talking about them looping that experience so that you could release that stress and that panic to where your system was calming down? I mean, I know that I would imagine that could also include be taking care of your physical body, because I know that during my experiences, I would just faint dead away because I was so terrorized with the experiences. And I know that can take panic and stress and all of that can take its toll on the body. So have they ever talked to you about the fact that it was also maybe helping you with not putting such a strain on the body?
Yeah, very likely. I think that it's all of the above. I think our physical and our emotional is very connected. So, but I knew that they were, concerned about me and how I would process it, and it was interesting, all the synchronicities that fall into place too. And the people I would meet, just amazing experiences where I met really close friends to this day that I'm still very close friends with, that have been my support network through this whole time, and this was before the internet and the ability to just connect with your tribe so easily. There was nothing. I mean, we didn't even have cell phones back in those times. This was in the 90s. So, you had to physically go somewhere. And
there's got to be people watching that remember those days.
Yeah, it really shows
another
age.
Lifetime ago.
Yeah.
That is another lifetime ago, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, it sure seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because I was remembering the other day as I was in the car thinking, there was a time when we would just be driving down the road and wouldn't have to worry about making a phone call right away, or worrying about calling someone at that moment, or that you couldn't get in touch with someone and not having your cell phone with you. Oh my gosh, I can't leave my cell phone anywhere because everyone has to be able to get in contact with me.
And everything's in the cell phone, your schedule,
everything,
your contacts, your everything is in there now.
Yeah. Isn't that something? I know. We used to do things as kids, and our parents didn't always know every second where we were, but if my son doesn't come home from school or answer his phone, if he doesn't answer his phone right away, you just kind of get worried. But we didn't have that back then. I mean, our parents didn't have to check.
It was a lot more organic. but yeah, it's funny. Long
Mhm.
time ago. So continue. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So where did I leave off?
Oh, you were talking about synchronicities, and as you were talking, I was thinking, so you, maybe the point you're trying to make is, or we're making, the gray beings that were taking care of you and coming to get you were helping you throughout your life,
Mhm.
and you with these synchronicities and helping you form a tribe and everything like that. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, exactly.
oh, excuse me. You were saying that they're doing experiments on you and all of that. Why?
Yeah.
I've always been so curious. It's like, why?
Yeah. Well, it's really, it stems back to the fact that I am a hybrid of them, that they created me from, I'm some of them, I have some of their genetics in me to begin with.
Let's
And
talk about that.
yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I don't remember it because, I was probably just this tiny, but
Yeah.
So
but
what does it happen in the womb? Or
yes.
how does I'm like, this fascinates me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. And my mother doesn't actually have recall of her pregnancy, any interference with her pregnancy or anything like that. But my father is an experiencer, so he had a lifetime of experiences. He remembers some things, but he was kind of in denial or really not aware of what it was because my father was he was from the Depression era. So I had a father that was like 44 years old when I was born. He was an older dad anyway. So he didn't have the resources to really be able to put it together. But I remember when I started having experiences and I shared it with my dad, he would relay different experiences that were very similar to mine, that he said were interesting dreams, and he had UFO sightings and things. So I know that he was also one of them, or he was also a hybrid as well. Looking back on it, I really feel that way. And so this is kind of how the hybrid program works, is and most people that are abductees or experiencers will have family lines where this goes on. And some parents of these kids are conscious of it and some aren't, but they do visit people in the same families. Sometimes it'll just be one sibling out of a whole bunch of siblings. It'll just be the one that's the hybrid. So what they're doing is they're adding more and more of the DNA of the grays, or whatever race that you want to call this, or there's probably many races that are doing this, or there's many types of grays, but they are hybridizing with the family line. So but they're doing it selectively and they're doing it carefully, and they're not doing it all at once. So otherwise you would have a body that probably wouldn't be able to inhabit this planet because it would be too different. So just in the way I am physically, I know that not only do I feel different mentally or emotionally, the way things are here, for me, but physically I'm different. I'm different. Medical doctors even notice this about me and will say things like, well, that is very unusual. I cannot tolerate any medications. I can't even take an Advil without having a horrible reaction. I'm really sensitive to GMOs and things that aren't good for me, like alcohol or, any kind of chemical, really bothers me. So, and I also had some DNA upgrades along the way. So those kinds of sensitivities even got more pronounced for me as I got older because of the DNA upgrades that they're doing. And I can explain more about that later, but so yeah, so it runs in my family. So I have this genetic component. And then when I got pregnant with my first son, he's also a hybrid. So that pregnancy, I remember lots of visits with the Greys and the procedures that they did to change or alter the zygote or embryo or whatever you call it. I'm not a scientist, so or a geneticist, but yes, so they told me at one of those early encounters that it was actually the night he was conceived. And they came and they said, you're going to be pregnant, and you're going to be pregnant with a child that's part us, part you and part your husband. They didn't use the word hybrid. They just made it in very clear terms. So I would understand, that this was a mixed child that has some of their genetics with them. And so they took my genetics and then they mixed another male, a hybrid male that's off planet, and my husband at the time. So it's like they somehow can splice it so that people have more than just two parents. I know that sounds hard for us to understand here, but they have that technology to be able to do that.
Well,
So
we do that with animals and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
one question, Kendra, is have they told you? I mean, I know what my peeps have told me why they're hybridizing us kind of thing. Have they told you why they're intermingling their DNA with the human DNA?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. Thank you for reminding me to talk about that. Yeah, we're shifting, this planet is shifting into a higher state of consciousness, which they actually referred to even back then. They told me that we were going to merge into the fifth dimension and that our dimension was going to merge with theirs because they're already residing in that dimension. So we're sort of stepping up to meet them, and so they want to make sure that when this happens, and it is a gradual process, they want to make sure that there's enough people that have the genetics to be able to kind of carry this through, to be able to kind of be the sounding board, or the people that can be here that will be able to help humanity with this next move.
Boots
into
on the
fifth
ground.
dimension. Yeah, thank you. That's a good way to say it.
Your boots on the ground. That's what they tell me. Your boots on the ground. I'm like, oh gee, thanks.
Right. Yeah. And so these hybrid kids are coming here with these incredible abilities. They're coming here with knowledge, like in physics and science, that's helping people advance that way. They're coming here with they're super heart-based and intuitive, and some of them are telepathic. And Mary Rodwell's books and her clients that are hybrid kids, they have these amazing abilities that she talks about in her books. The New Human is the name of her book. So
yeah, thanks. Go ahead, Michelle.
It's interesting because we know that there's some kind of that kind of stuff that might possibly be going on this planet from something that's not the grace, if you will. And I'm wondering, it's like, how many races are coming in? And I'm going to use the word tampering just because I don't know what other word to use. But do you know, or are you just with the Greys and you just know what the Greys have told you? Because we have so many, we've got the Pleiadians that are here. We got Arcturians in here. We got the Syrians, the Andromedans. We have so many different races that we're genetically linked to.
Yes.
Do they talk to you about that?
No, but I've had lots of encounters with those types of beings too. And then I've been told the same thing, that, they're here to help humanity also. They're, and it's interesting because the Greys, they're able to, they have a physical form. So if a fifth dimensional being like a Pleiadian or the people from Andromeda need to, and this has happened to me before, if they need to come down here to connect with us or communicate or do surgery on us because we're sick, they send the Greys to do that because they're not incarnated in a physical body, or the dimensions are too different. So a lot of these, they're all working collectively, the fifth dimensional beings with those beings on other planets. And I've had that experience where the Greys came and did surgery, and Melody was talking to me, telling me this was going to happen, that I was ill with a adrenal issue. And I never even knew. No diagnosis from a doctor yet. I never even knew, but I was feeling kind of off. I was getting dizzy. I was super thirsty all the time. And that symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. And then I said, what's the matter with me, Melody? Because I channel my fifth dimensional being guide named Melody. And she says, your adrenals aren't working properly. There's something wrong. And the very next day, I have this experience where I get paralyzed, which, I hate that part, but I'm paralyzed. And two grays show up, and I felt this warm sensation over my back. I was laying on my side. I felt this warmth, and that's all I felt was warmth. And I had this surgery, and the next day I had this incision left on my back. I mean, it was right there. And then she said they removed a lesion that was on my adrenal gland. So I guess I had a benign tumor or something. Well, things went along, 6, 8 months. I seemed pretty good. And then I started getting those symptoms again, started kind of feeling not so good. Went to the doctor, and that's the first thing they said. It sounds like an adrenal issue that you have. And I went to an endocrinologist. They ran the hormone tests, and sure enough, my levels were off. And they said, well, that's weird, because you really have these hormone levels that show that you have you might have a tumor. That I had too much aldosterone, too much DHEAS, and strange hormones that a tumor would produce. But the CAT scan showed no tumors. I had 3 CAT scans in the last 6 years, no tumor. They can't understand why with that. So it's because the grays removed that, but the hormones are still sort of, the residual of that is still producing. So that's why. And I'm getting better. I mean, I'm getting better, and they, without any medication and stuff, which they wanted to put me on. So they helped me, they really helped me with this.
Sure.
I never thought of the grays as people who come to help. And I want to share this experience with you, Kendra, because I've never really been able to talk with anybody about this. So it's all about me for a second.
Yeah.
I had surgery, first time I ever had surgery other than giving birth to my children. And it's been, God, it was like 2011. So however many years ago that's been. And after I had come, it was, I had appendicitis, and I had my appendix out, and then they'd messed it up. I had to go back in. I had to have another surgery within a couple of months. And I was in a lot of pain. I was really sick. I was messed up. And I woke up one night. It was like the second or third night that I got home from the hospital. And I woke up, and I felt like I was like, almost like standing on my head. And I was like, what is going on? And then I felt like somebody kind of went with my energy field, and I opened my eyes, and there were 3 grays standing in my room, little ones, little guys. And I just went, oh, no, 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 you're not doing anything. You're not messing with me. Get out. And they looked at me very calmly and kind of nodded. And then they walked through the wall and went out. And I've always thought maybe it was kind of a dream. And then right after that, I heard this loud crack, and then a whoosh, and I passed out. Oh, I'm getting chills.
Wow.
Could that have been them?
Yeah, absolutely. From what Melody tells me, they do healings all the time on people. They just don't remember, and they're not aware. But those miraculous healings that happen to people, or unexplained things, a lot of times the different types of grays or different beings are involved, definitely. And people have missions. They come here, if your work's not done yet, it's not your time to go, and they're going to come and correct those things. So you'll have a
helped
longer.
Me so many times. Yeah, they've taken me on the ship, prepared my body. Just last year, they came in the room and helped me, and I saw this, and I even said to them, I knew they were here, and I saw different lights in the room, and I even said to them in my mind, okay, I'm ready to see you in real time, rather than remembering after the fact. Okay, I'm ready to see you. And all I saw was this light, this wheel of light that they were using on me, and I was bilocating here and there, and they protect us that way in some way. And mine is 3 too, Michele. I have 3 grays that help me out a lot, starting as a kid. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because before I went into surgery for the first time, I remember I was there, and the whole room was full of this golden sparkling light. And I went, oh, if I'm dead, that's cool. I'm good. And I heard 3 voices go, kind of giggle and go, no, 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 there's more for you to do. And I was like, yeah, but I'm good. I'm good. And they're like, oh, no, no, there's more.
Yeah.
And I always think, oh, it's the angels. But, when I was young, when I was 4, I had a visitation, and I've always been very, very connected with that. And then having that experience and hearing you talk, I'm kind of like,
Our buddy Preston, he wrote a book about it.
yeah,
Lots and lots of stories. Preston Dennett, if you don't know him, Kendra and people watching, we've had him on here and we've talked to him quite a few times. He's written 30 something 5 books, but he wrote a book about extraterrestrials and alive grays that have helped people through many, many health crises.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think maybe I interrupted them because I've not been very well since then. So come on back and finish what you were doing.
I didn't mean it.
Because it scared me so bad. It was like, get
Sure.
out.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they'll still, even if you say get out, they know that we have this fight or flight. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've screamed and prayed and said get out, and they kept coming back, and they expect that from us, but they're looking at our soul contract, or what our super conscious mind really wants.
Yeah.
And if someone was to ask me, Kendra, would you want to help, with the hybrid program? Would you want to be part of that and bring in an advanced species, a mixed species that can help humanity with different knowledge? I'd say, sure, yeah, I want to do that. So
Right.
I know that I made this agreement, and even though I got scared a lot, it's like we have different versions of ourselves, and you mentioned you still have some health problems and things, and I do too. And some of that is actually just us going through this healing process right now, because we are in the middle of an ascension and it's intense.
Yeah.
And we have to shed stuff that we're holding on to that doesn't serve us. And the universe is going to point us in the direction that we need to heal that. And what Melody's taught me is that when we heal something within ourselves physically, it heals our ancestral DNA.
Yeah.
It heals our emotional body and our spiritual body at the same time. So sometimes we have to get sick. So when we work on healing that, like taking better care of ourselves, slowing down, sleeping more, eating better, all those things, we're actually healing our multidimensional selves at the same time, our ancestors. If there's any, abusive patterns in the past, things that, we lived in a very patriarchal kind of dark society in the past, that a lot of our DNA is attached to the ancestral DNA of that. So when we learn to become more heart-based and focused on, the beautiful things in life and have more gratitude, we're healing some of those lines that are influencing not only us, but everyone around us. So it's a healing time right now,
Yeah.
Sure
Thank you for bringing that up for our viewers too, because it is so important for everybody to understand that,
Yeah.
All of us who are here that are working like all 3 of us do, it's not just about us. We know that we're healing, like you said, multidimensionally and through the even just the human ancestry, into the group consciousness, into the collective as well. And it's interesting because I've done so much work on all the stuff, and I keep coming back to, it's like, how come I'm not healed? How come you can't heal me? Because I'm actually in a wheelchair. I have a hip and back injury. And I kept going, you guys can heal me. You guys can fix this. I'm pissed. I go through those times and I'm like, I love you. Thank you so much for all I have, but it's interesting because it always comes back, it's learning to master the physical. You've got all the other stuff going on, but you haven't mastered the physical. And that is what you're here to do.
That's the key.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
And I'm
I've
like,
been told that too. Yeah. Right.
That's the hardest.
It is. We're not used to being in this dense vibration. And so it's definitely a challenge. It is a
and
challenge.
it's so weird. It's like I look at my hands sometimes. I'm like, what is this thing?
I know, right?
It's like this appendage that it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
So Michelle, I wanted to, I'm sorry, Kendra, I just want to say one thing about what Michelle was asking about the star races and Starseed or star races. I got, this who was it? Elena Denon and her
Mm.
group, and Michael Sala and all them talked about, and her contact talked about the fact that, and it really resonated with me, that the humans on the planet right now are royalty because they have 24 extraterrestrial
Yeah.
bloodlines in them, I guess you could say, 24 races within us that created the human, the beauty and intricate human physical body that we are, and energetic bodies that we are. So that resonated with me. 24. That's
And
a
it
lot.
makes sense because I feel very close to Arcturian, Pleiadian,
Mhm.
Sirian, Lyran, Andromedan. Now I think I'm going to love the Greys. They used to freak me out. I might do a little, sorry guys.
Yeah, and you know that I understand that there's some grays that are not good, the tall grays, the really ugly ones that are not good at all, what I understand. But I don't have any experience that I know with them. Have you had any experience with anything like that, Kendra?
No, the ones that did the surgery on me were taller though than the typical 3 to 3.5 foot ones that used to always visit me, the ones hybrid. So they were more like 5 feet tall. But they were just beautiful. They have this glow about them and this kindness. And
That's
I'll never
different than the
forget.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe but I just think it's a spectrum, there's just like humans, there's grays with really good intentions, and they're on that same page of wanting us to evolve and expand, and they care very much about us. And then there's the kind that probably are, as we know, they're probably
Right.
also doing the bloodline hybridization, but for the other side, of being of service to self and destruction. And we've seen that and around
The
too.
Queen passing away.
The Queen.
Very
Speaking of
Speaking
which,
of bloodlines.
Yep. Speaking of bloodlines.
so
They
why don't
gotta
you tell
fix-
us about go ahead, Michelle.
Oh no,
All
I'm
right.
good. I'm like already going doo 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 doo.
I know,
Sorry,
right?
guys. Go back and finish your job if there's any of that could be helping.
So, we are in the time of disclosure, and we've said before, we even did a show on it, that we are the disclosure. And so people like you, Kendra, and all of us here that know for sure that actually have our experiences and know that there are extraterrestrials that are here working with us and all that. We're the ones that are the disclosure, not the government or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
Well,
depend
and
on them.
it's so the government, whoever they are,
Whatever that is. Yeah.
Whatever that is anymore. We used to think we knew. But now it's like, I don't know. But they're not going to, because that is not who they are anymore. Almost, it's very interesting that it's like you guys used to care about us, and we used to care about you and what happened. And so it's interesting. And so I totally agree with you. We're those of us that are here and talking about stuff like this and talking with each other, and Elena Denon and
Michael Sala.
Sala. Yeah.
Yeah.
They bring I watch their shows and my head just starts going.
I know.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
know, it's really good stuff. So when we have people like that, and it doesn't mean we have to resonate with everything they come through with, because our own experiences, I think, are the key. But when we have people like that to help us, and Kendra, for you to come forward, and that courage, it takes courage to come forward and talk about these things. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It does. I mean, for people out there who are kind of on the fence, I say, just do it anyway. I mean, don't be scared. People need to hear your stories, because that gives permission for other people to open up and share stuff that maybe they were scared to. And the more of us that share, the more we'll realize we've got a lot in common with other people. I know I'm not the only person that's had contact with the Greys, and there's a lot of us out there.
Oh yeah. And more people are talking about it. More and more people are talking about having contact with the Greys and being a part of the hybrid program. And I wish you would share, if you would, Kendra, your experience with holding your child, your hybrid child, in your arms.
Mm. Yeah, well, I have lots of hybrid kids actually.
Okay,
I
so
have like
I remember the one in particular, Daniel, because I remembered that one of my
okay.
children was named Daniel.
Okay, that's
I
right. Yeah,
have
I
one,
haven't shared that on this show yet. So
but
what you're
he's
talking about
earthling.
is okay.
Okay.
So when I was pregnant with, yeah, well, when I was pregnant with my son, my oldest son, I don't know if he wants me to share his name on here, so I'm just going to not share my son's
That's
name
okay.
for his privacy.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, but he's extremely incredible as far as gifts and abilities, and he developed very different as a baby. He learned to walk slower actually, and he learned to talk slower than other kids. But he was putting together these incredible puzzles, like that were made for a 6-year-old when he was 18 months old. And I had a daycare at the time, so I could see the development. And I was like, wow. He would memorize where all these puzzles go and everything. So he was labeled as having, high functioning autism or Asperger's, as a lot of these star kids do, or they get labeled with ADHD and all this stuff. But so I knew, why. I knew it's because he's a hybrid, he's different. When he was born, his head was super large. The doctor noticed that and thought he had infant, how do you say that? Encephalitis, where the brain is swollen. So they actually had to do some tests and everything to make sure that he didn't have that. And he said, wow, he just has a big head. It's like 2 inches larger than average than other kids. It was enormous.
Wow.
I couldn't even put t-shirts over his head. He had to wear button-up shirts because the neck wasn't able to go over his head. So that's the sign right there that, this is a hybrid child. But what's interesting is before he was born, for the years that preceded my pregnancy with him, I was meeting a lot of my hybrid kids. So they had been taking ovum from me from the time I was probably 16 years old or whatever, because I was meeting children in my 20s that were, 4 or 5 years old. And one of these children I became very close to because they kept bringing him to me, or I would go on the ship and I would see him, multiple encounters with him. And so I was forming a relationship, and it was very hard because when I come back, I would grieve just like a mother would grieve when their child is not there anymore. And it was amazing. And I was learning all about him and his talents and who he was. And I named him. I just said, I'm going to call him Daniel. And that's what Sharon was talking about, because she apparently also has a child off planet named Daniel. But the visit stopped after, I guess, it went on from the time he was 5 to 7, I suppose, for a few years. And then the visit stopped when I became pregnant. And so that soul that was Daniel is who incarnated into this planet, was as my firstborn child. And that's what's oftentimes happening with these hybrid kids, and why they have so many abilities and talents, because they've spent the first, 6 to 8 years of their life as a child living with the grays as a gray, with a very left brain intelligence, but they're hybridized. So they took my ovum to create him in that life. And then when he was done getting those skills and abilities, he incarnates here in this life. So I got to experience my son off planet and on planet. Wow. At 2 different times.
Wow. You were tripping me out. Because
so imagine if I'm not the only one who's had this. Maybe a lot of people have this that may not be aware, made the connection. But imagine how many of us that come here and say, I don't quite feel like I fit in. I feel like I'm from some other planet. You see, well, this really happened to my son.
Well, Susie Hansen in her book talks about something very similar. If you haven't read her book, it's the E.T., the Dual Soul, I think it's called. Really, really good book. And she talks about something very similar with her son.
Okay. Wow.
Michele, were you going to say?
Well, no, I'm just, as you're talking about this, when I was pregnant with my son, we lived out in the boonies, out in a place called Murrieta, California. And I used to see UFOs all the time. And my
Mhm.
son is brilliantly retarded. He was 3 years old, and we had an old motorcycle out in the back, and he somehow found spark plugs, put this in, and got this motorcycle running at like not even quite 3 years old. He's
Wow.
always been like brilliant in some things and just almost
Right.
non-functional. And when
Wow.
he was 16, he had an experience where he was taken off
Oh,
planet. You remember seeing the planet way, way far away.
Mm.
They basically told him, you choose the light or you choose the dark, and whichever side you go, you have to stick with it. And if you don't, you are going to suffer in this lifetime. So get your act together. It's time.
Mm.
wow.
So
And so
they told him he has to choose something.
he had to choose the light or the dark, light side or dark side.
Okay.
He was 16 years old. He was starting to get in trouble.
Oh, I see.
Oh.
Okay.
And so they brought him back, and and oh my God, this is so weird. So he remembers having this happen, and they brought him back, and he doesn't remember this from here, but someone else did. A black limousine picked him up in the middle of the street. He had fallen and cracked his head. Then he was taken off, had this experience, brought back. And then a black limousine picked him up, brought him home. And the lady in the front seat turned around and said, "You better go do what you say you're going to do." So he came in the house. The neighbor across the street had been outside the whole time period that he was supposed to be. Nobody saw a black limousine. Nobody saw Daniel come home. My roommate that was in the house just noticed, boom, he was there.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's
I'm just, this
crazy.
conversation
Yeah.
is it would explain so much if this kid was maybe what you're talking about. Because I've
Mhm.
seen, I mean,
Sounds like you've got some hybridized genetics in your family too.
dude,
like
both
it.
my kids are just like brilliant and can barely function,
Wow.
Wow.
and super
Wow.
psychic and super gifted. They don't
Mhm.
want to fit in to society. They want to do it their own way. It's a better way. Very
Yeah.
loving, very kind, and very pissed off that things aren't working out the way they want it to.
Sounds like my nephew.
Mm,
Yeah. Wow.
Well, it's hard for them to be here too. I mean, it is
Yeah, it is
so
hard.
different from where they were before. And do your sons or children, do they have any memory of living off planet or being from somewhere else?
I've talked with them about ETs and spaceships, and we've seen spaceships. And so to them, it's like just kind of normal.
Mhm.
My daughter, the older one, is really shut down. I think she's had more experiences than she knows. My son's a little more open to it, but he was younger and I was a little bit more advanced at that time. But my son talks a lot about being like past lives and where he came through. But he lives up in Alaska in the boonies,
Mhm.
and he talks about the spacemen and the
Oh yeah.
all the
Alaska
time.
is prime real estate for
and yeah, in Montana too.
yeah,
And
extraterrestrial
so,
contact. Yeah.
and he does things where he like disappears for a while and then comes back. And I've always
Wow.
thought, oh my God, he's a drug addict. Well, maybe he's leaving
Mm.
Mm.
because he does not
Interesting.
remember.
Wow.
And he talks about
Wow.
that too.
I believe that I'm hoping, praying in our lifetime that these visits that we take on the ships and things like that we don't remember, will be, we
Start
will remember. We'll have real time experience,
Mm.
and it'll be normal.
Yeah.
That when we
Mm.
see different types of craft in the sky, other than an airplane, it won't be such a weird thing. It'll just be normal.
Mhm.
It'll just,
Mhm.
it'll just be a normal craft. And we'll have, like the Star Wars thing, we'll have different types of beings around us. Maybe not that weird, but at least human types or hybrids, like, that we can tell intuitively that they
Yeah.
aren't Earth humans.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about right now, what you what you're saying that you want. I think it's more like a premonition, Sharon, what you're
Mhm.
saying,
Mhm.
because those are the exact, almost to the exact detail of how you're describing it are what the Grace told me that was going to unfold, was that when we get into the fifth dimension, it's going to be where you see there's more frequent sightings of UFOs. So, and that's already happening. I mean, more and more
Right.
people are seeing them, and they might deny what they've seen, but more and more people are noticing this and without explanation. And the thing that we call ghosts, or people that have crossed over, they told me that we would have much more easy interaction with those people.
Mhm.
When the veil would be lifted and we'd be seeing that, and that we'd be more in harmony with the earth. That's supposed to come to pass as well. And psychic intuition abilities, and just kind of being in the same room with the ETs and not being afraid. I mean, these times are coming
Right.
as we merge into the fifth dimension. So it's this merging of one reality to another. And it's like, they told me this in the 1990s, early 1990s.
Nice.
And nobody talked about the fifth dimension then. So here we are. There's
Mhm.
shows about it now. There's books about it. It's really unfolding, so
It's
uh,
exciting, isn't it? It is really exciting
It is.
to see
Well,
this,
you-
to be here and see this happening all around us, and be a part of it.
mhm.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what's interesting is there's that book I shared with you, Sharon, called The Talmud of Emmanuel,
Yes.
and it's missing messages from Jesus, whose name was not Jesus.
Yeshua.
It
Yeah.
apparently was Emmanuel, and not spelled with an I either.
Mm.
But he talks about where he came from in this book. And he talks about that the archangels from the Elohim are what impregnated Mary, and that he is not God the creator. He's God basically saying Elohim, the archangels, which is basically come from the seven sisters. So basically he's saying he's an ET.
He's Pleiadian. Yeah, he
Oh,
told me
yeah.
that too a long time ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so it
that's
was like, it was so cool. It's like, of course.
Right.
Of course. So that kind of information coming out to the world too, is
Mhm.
important as well. That all
Mhm.
these great masters and these great beings who did great things, they may have been ETs walking among us
Mhm.
and are our family.
And our
Yeah.
abilities to connect with them again, to bring them right here, whether it's, it may not be physically, but to start with, I mean, we're channeling them now. There's more and more people that are able to bring them here and their information through channeling. So that has opened up for a lot of people now, including me. I mean, that started for
Mhm.
me in about 2000, was it 2012 or somewhere in there, when I started channeling my guide Melody, and got to have other experiences with other beings through her too. So yeah, it's
So
pretty
tell us
cool.
about Melody, if you don't mind. How
Yeah.
did you get introduced to Melody? If you don't mind sharing who she is to you, and how that started.
Yeah, how it started was I was actually having a few visits with some, malevolent types of beings. There were these reptilian types that started
Mm.
visiting me and just harassing me. And I was working on my book at the time, and I think they were trying to stop the book from coming out because, yeah, the link. It was channeled information that I got from who I call the voice of creation. So I was literally woken up in the night and I was told, these are the 7 principles of I am. You're going to want to write this down. And so I wrote down these principles. I had no idea what it meant. But I was kind of working on like notes for a book. I knew that I love to write. I'm always writing. And so I had stuff on higher consciousness, and I like, quantum physics. And even though I'm not a scientist, I just love how it all fits into spirituality. So I
yeah,
was
right.
studying all that stuff, taking notes. And then so he came and gave me these principles and said, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to find out how all your notes fit into these principles, and you're going to have 7 chapters for your book. And I was like, no way. So I got up and that's how the book happened. And I had all these notes, and I literally took scissors and I just took the principle and I found, oh, this kind of fits here and this fits here. And then I went to my computer, and did the first chapter, you are pure conscious energy. That's the first principle. And he came through every time I sat at the computer. He did this introduction, and I just wrote it as fast as I heard it. So I have a channeled piece at the beginning of every principle in the book. And then the rest of the book is me kind of researching and giving my experiences of how it all ties in. So then I later find out that these 7 principles actually line up with our 7 chakras. 7 is this really sacred number. There's 7 colors in the rainbow, and it's a spectrum of energy, of frequencies, and we actually hold within us, and we bring in these frequencies through our chakras. So when we not just when we read the principles, but when we align with them, when you know that you're conscious energy and you're not just a physical body, when you really know this, or that you are connected to all that is, that's another principle. You're whole, you are one with all that is. And when you know that you're not your ego, that's another principle. That's number 3. Number 4 is I am timeless, infinite, and eternal. So that's also, some people are starting to have familiarity with past lives. They know that, oh, I've lived before, I'm going to go on after this. Knowing that is a principle that helps you open up that chakra. And then the other one, I am multidimensional. That's where you can heal, different aspects of yourself across timelines. We talked about that already. That's the throat chakra that activates that one. And then I am creative is the third eye. So what you visualize and what you want to manifest, what you think becomes your reality. I mean, this is just how powerful we are, that when we acknowledge that, we are blooming into this superhuman and unveiling this potential that we don't even know that we have. Because if we just live in the matrix, we can't open it, So, and then the last one on top is I am love. It's just a simple, I am love. So you don't just feel love, you are the expression of love, which is the highest vibration there is. So that's what the principles were that went into writing the book. Now, as far as Melody goes, okay, so I explained that she started coming through. She started talking to me when I was really scared and when I was going through this before the book came out. And she's never left. I mean, anytime I have a question or want to talk to my guide Melody, I just ask and she's right there. So we've been connected this whole time, and I channel 4 other people with her. So if anybody ever wants a channeling, I just go into the altered state. I close my eyes and she speaks through me. So I'm a trance channel for her.
Wow.
And this all started from the Grays. Who would have, should I?
All right, now we're recording again. I had to jump off there for a second. I had a technical problem. Continue, Kendra.
Oh, sure. Where did I leave off my memory?
You were done. I don't know. When we started talking about other things, you were talking about Melody and how she came into your life and you started channeling her. And then you said something about the Grays too.
Let's see. Well, I was having some negative experiences, because this is how I was just saying how Melody appeared in my life. Was I was having these negative experiences because these beings just really didn't want me to publish this book. I was just being harassed. They're trying to bring my vibration down and have me in total fear. And I didn't know how to empower myself. I didn't know how to, get this to stop. And it came out of nowhere. I didn't always have, these negative beings appearing, but I think what happened was the veil, or my ability to see interdimensionally, got more intense. So I was able to actually get up to use the bathroom at night, and I would feel one follow me, and I could tune in and I could see what he looked like. And it was scary. And, so I asked for help. I just asked, I'm scared. I need help. I need this to stop. I don't want to be harassed anymore. Sometimes they would just pull me out of my body and just there'd be this wrestling match in the bed, just physically, but I was out of body, and then they wouldn't let me get back in my body. So I had these really terrifying harassment type things with these reptilian types. And she I just heard this voice respond when I said, I need help. I'm really scared. I'm really scared. Somebody help me. Praying, God help me, whatever. And she says, I'm right here. I'm your guide. I'm always here. You can count on me or talk to me anytime you need. I said, I never heard anybody answer like that. I've never
Wow.
heard a voice or, and it was inside my head. It was telepathic. It wasn't like out of my body. It was inside. And she specifically comes in through the right hemisphere. I always hear her on the right side. Like I can point locally, like where I hear her. And it's always like that. So I always know it's her because of, and I could hear her. She has a very sweet, gentle, sweet voice. And so I just start the dialogue. I just ask her all these questions. Well, who are you? And she says, well, I've always been your guide. But I'm here to help you, with this next phase in your life, ask me whatever you want. And she never ever said, you're going to be channeling for people, or this is what you have to do. She's never, ever told me what I must do. It's always been just to support whatever I want to do. So I asked her about that as things went along, and pretty soon I started channeling where she could just speak through me. I was doing it for family and my husband and, close friends. And then I said, should we do this for others? Should I put this on my website? She says, whatever you want to do, I'm completely support what you want to do. And that's fine. We can team up and we can help other people. And so that's what I started doing right around 2013 or so. I started channeling for other people, and it's been I've gotten really good feedback. She's very loving and very sweet and supportive.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very cool. So did the attack stop after that?
Oh, that's right. The attacks. Yeah, it was interesting. She really guided me on how to empower myself, so that what it was when we get afraid, that's the only time we really lose our power. So once she told me that all you have to do is tell them to stop, they have to listen to you, she said, because when you vibrate higher, it's just like, if you look at like God or the creator, and you have creation itself, well, the higher vibration gets the final say over, how things go. So especially if you're being trampled on and your rights, your boundaries are being violated, if you simply say, no, this doesn't work, I did not give you permission to come in here and follow me to the restroom. You need to leave. And I would do these exercises. I would visualize this coil wrapping around the bean, and I would shove it through the ceiling. And it really worked. I mean, it really stopped when I just set my foot down and said no. And that applies to everything in our lives. I mean, if we've had enough of a tyrannical government, or we've had enough of, even like we can talk to our body that way. If we have an illness or something, we can look at that and go, okay, what is it you need from me? What can I do to help with this? It's like learning to talk in a way that empowers us instead of makes us feel defeated. So that was my lesson. I had to learn that, and she coached me.
That's a big lesson. Definitely. I mean, we all need to learn that lesson, I believe.
And I think it's a lesson that kind of is the spiral too. It's like we get good at it and we're on it, and then, well, we fall back to old behaviors.
Yeah.
And it's something that's an ongoing lesson.
Right. We forget. Something comes along and gets us distracted, and we forget, and then we have to be reminded again. And I guess that's the human condition. But
Sorry about, I have background noise because they're leaf blowers out in my neighborhood right now. Sorry.
Oh, I don't hear it.
Can't hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we can't hear Michelle's thunder booming, then we probably can't hear the leaf blowers either.
That's good.
It's interesting that you talk about that. I used to, at one period in my life, it was all around when I was sick too, when I got sick and this whole thing started. But I used to have something with big fangs, would all of a sudden, like just as I was falling asleep, would like come at my third eye. It used to scare the crap out of me. And finally, one time I was like, oh, hell no. No, I'm not putting up with this. No. And never happened again.
Wow.
Yeah.
but it
that's
was
all it takes.
really creepy, and it would like come just right like that, just as I was falling asleep.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like you were being harassed too. They do
Mhm.
that with light workers. People, they
Yeah.
want to test us. They want us to be in fear because it's a vibrational thing. And if we get that fear in that fear mode, it's hard to do our work. It's hard. I can't
Yeah.
even connect with Melly. That's the only time I can't connect with her is if I'm in fear. If I'm
Yeah.
panicking over something, we get cut off, and that's the only time. So that's how powerful fear is. It'll take
Yeah.
you right out of our connection to our spirit guides and our own soul, really.
Right.
And that's
I
why it's
know.
so
Yeah,
important right now for people not to buy into the fear that's happening on the
Totally.
planet, because it's being presented for that exact reason.
yeah.
Yes, you
Be the
got it.
spiritual warrior that you are. It doesn't mean that we can't be concerned about things, but then fear mode is debilitating. I know.
Yeah.
I went through reptilians being in my room 20 years ago, and I was going through my quickening dark night of soul, and they were all over around me, and I was terrified and running around the house trying to get away from them, and they're following me around, and I could see them in the fourth dimension. I could see them. I saw them at work. I felt that, and I saw one of my coworkers was one of them, and they would gather around him whenever there was a storm, and I would see these battles in the clouds, in the fourth dimension between them and they'd gather around him, and so yeah, and I could at that point I could actually look at someone and
Yeah.
see their energy and see who, what type of an extraterrestrial they are. I mean, we have that ability once we open up our third eye.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's and I remember when I used to work out at the gym back in San Antonio, there was these guys that would come in, and I couldn't work out in this on the side of the gym with them, or the club with them. I had to be as far away as possible because I could see that they were reptilian energy. That had
Mhm.
that reptilian energy that I saw around them, and they made me very uncomfortable. Not that I was judging them, I just needed to get away from that as much as possible.
I
It can
got
really-
pulled over by a motorcycle police one time, and he did not take off his helmet. And it was that big shiny, and I kept looking at him, and I could see my face in his helmet, but it's all warped, because it's a helmet shield. And I asked him, I said, can you put your visor up so I can see your eyes? And he got really still, and I just felt this like energy, and I went, oh God. And then not physically, but third dimensionally, I saw this tongue.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy crap. And I'm like, do I run? Do I go? What do I do? And I got sit still, because if you move, he will shoot you.
Wow.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
getting chills.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it was
me
one of
too.
those things that was like, and on a highway that was nobody coming and going. And it was like, okay. And they picked me out.
But you were protected.
Yeah, thank God. But that's scary.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. You just reminded me of this encounter I had with a neighbor, actually, that's up the street a little bit from us. I was driving in the car with my husband, and we weren't speeding. We were driving down our neighborhood, which is residential, and there was a stop sign like just a few yards ahead. So we were stopping, and this guy's house is like the second or third house from that stop sign on the corner there. And he comes running out with his rake, and he starts hitting my car with his rake. Oh, my husband was very upset. He goes, are you crazy? What are you doing? He goes, you need to slow down. We're like, we weren't speeding. But anyway, it was really freaky that he attacked us like that. So we did call the police and let them know that this guy did this, and, let him know that the police came and talked to him, and he came over to apologize after that. Like, after we came back, because we were picking up my son, and then we came back, and he came to so he followed us, I guess, or he knew where we lived. I don't know, but he came to the driveway, and he held out his hand to apologize. And when he did, his eyes turned completely black, completely. There were no whites. He had this oversoul of total reptilian, and it just freaked me out. So I can relate to what you're talking about when you saw the tongue. So there are these oversouls, or somehow people, either they have contracts with them or they are hybrids of that other race. And sometimes we're encountering them. It's kind of creepy.
And you know what? I've encountered reptilians who are not bad. So they're not all bad. I mean, I would say maybe there's a faction in the majority of them, maybe. But I understand that there are reptilians who are evolved, and they are evolving like anyone else, but that there are high vibrational reptile type of beings.
Well, and the dragon realms too are kind of in that, you know, and there's a lot of very, very advanced, you know, dragon consciousness that's very loving and very supportive and so much wants to reconnect with humanity.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's along that same line too.
Yeah.
It feels like a yes, huh?
Yeah,
it does.
I know somebody that has a dragon, my guy as a guide, and just I could see him interdimensionally. You too? Oh, okay.
There are mother dragon.
Very sweet beings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Not all reptilians are in that branch are bad, and we have to keep that in mind. You know, it's a spectrum, just like humanity. You've got everything's about choices, and I think people like your son, you know, they're asked, are you going to choose the light or the dark? I think that we're all given that choice in the long run. I mean, no matter what our genetics are or where we come from or what influence we have, we still ultimately get to choose what side of the fence we're on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Serve as in law of one, service to self or service to others is a choice. Yeah. And so we will, according to the law of one, the teachings of Ra, we will ascend if our thoughts are 51% or more on service to others.
Yeah. Care for others. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not, you know, there's no judgment there.
Yeah. And we don't have to be perfect. And we don't have to be perfect.
51%, you know, that's kind of a no-brainer within my circles, you know, and I'm sure in your circles too. You know, 51% isn't all that much. And so, I mean, that's good. That just means that you're walking through your day wanting to help people, or when you see someone, you want to help them. If you see someone needs help or anything that needs help, then you're thinking about helping them instead of being self-serving.
Right.
All the time.
And also, and also thinking kindness towards them. It's not even having to be physically helping people.
No.
You know, it's like you see somebody
thoughts
fall down and so many people like, oh, that's so funny. It's like, no, it's not funny.
Sometimes it is. Like
Sharon.
Okay, I'm talking about myself.
You just lost your 51%.
I know, right? I was at 52. Now I'm down to 51. Okay.
That's some making up to do, girl.
I know, right?
But yeah, it's interesting. It's all those little things, because so much of it is internal, and you know what's going on inside of you and stuff. And I know when I heard about the queen passing, so we're going to kind of date this video. And I went through this really weird flip-de-doo, like, oh my God, I can't believe she's passed. You know, she's been here for so long. And then it was like, you know, oh, you know, blessings, rest in peace. And then I had this little thing like, and may all the darkness that you held in your lifetime be filled with light and love, and may it go into all the tentacles, you know, of the darkness that you're a part of. And then it was like, and may you be blessed. Right. So it was like this kind of like a flippy-do.
Right.
Because she was at the helm of a lot of crazy stuff. And man, what a mighty woman. Rest in peace, beloved one.
Yeah. Sounds like psycho pump work, you know, where you talk to or help people cross over. I mean, that is a gesture right there of compassion or love. And also some people think that taking care of yourself or loving yourself or doing what's right for you is separate from what you do when you do good to others. But actually, the more we love ourselves and do what's right for us, the more we are going to be available for people. Because a lot of people think they have to sacrifice. Well, I don't do enough for others because I'm selfish. I want to stay home. I don't want to go out with friends or whatever. Well, that's not selfish. If that's what you need to do to be stronger, healthier, and to be there for others in the long run, then it's the right thing, So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a good message. Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that what Kendra said there, right there, if anyone, with our very aware, smart, beautiful people that are watching here, that will relieve some guilt off your shoulders, because a lot of people feel guilty sometimes for not wanting to socialize or not wanting to do things like that. And it's okay to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people need a lot of extra rest because it's so intense. And what I keep being shown too, and I think we've talked about it on the show, is there's so many waves of information and stuff going through the air with TVs and computers and Bluetooth and phones and satellites and all this stuff. And I mean, our bodies pick up on all that stuff. And
Yeah.
we have to take care of ourselves. We have to rest. We have to stay hydrated. We have to eat well, because we're really physically being bombarded.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. I don't really think about it that way, but that's so true. I mean, it never leaves us. We're always around unless we go off grid, I guess.
Right.
That's kind of nice when that happens. But yeah, it's a lot of.
Yeah, and I try to turn off as many electronics as possible before we go to bed. And I think my dreams are clearer because of it.
A lot.
Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
a lot.
I believe it does. Yeah.
Try that.
I had a few nights ago, I had turned everything off. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be good. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and I have this habit where I sleep for about 4 or 5 hours. And then I wake up for 2 or 3 hours and then fall back asleep. Well, those 2 or 3 hours I'm on, I'm looking at stuff and doing YouTube and all that stuff. And I'm going, crap.
3 hours passed and you didn't. Yeah, I do the same thing, Michele.
Yeah, and I had like agitation, and it was a little withdrawals, and I was like, no, we're gonna sit here and meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really an interesting process because it's an addiction.
It is.
It felt very addictive.
It draws you in. I can hear my phone talking to me. Pick me up, turn me on, check your email, check this, look at that. It gets into your head. I had a vision during meditation one time where I saw the Wi-Fi is in the other room. The Wi-Fi come in my room, around the corner and in the room, and actually come and enter my head.
Ooh.
Yes.
Looking, well, and it does.
It does. It looks for some place it can send the signal.
Wow.
I have an EVP where my guides tell me turn off your computer at night and turn off your Wi-Fi at night. Yeah, they tell me that. Yep. So turn off your computer when you're not using it. Turn off your Wi-Fi. So can you imagine?
Yeah. Wow.
That's on all the time.
And turn off your modem, not just turn off your Wi-Fi on your devices.
Your modem,
but literally unplug it from the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be better. I have, I make all that organite, and so I have pieces all over that's supposed to help with that. So I kind of been relying on that, but I listen, and then I use my earbuds. I sleep with my earbuds in all night and listen to like self-hypnosis. So I do the meditation thing like you do, but with help. I'm not very good by myself without somebody telling me what to do. So but that seems to help. Otherwise, I'd be like you. I'd be awake and my mind just races, and then pretty soon I'm on the phone for 3 hours, not sleeping. It's not good for us.
It's easy to get really good inspiration at 3 o'clock in the morning, though.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
A lot of times I'm like, what a great idea.
Yeah.
That's why I use these.
Write this down.
Use these.
Oh, paper. Is that paper?
Paper and pen. Remember these? Remember paper and pen? Remember those things? Remember journaling. I bought this book recently called The Untethered Soul.
Oh, I've
Guided
heard
journal.
about that.
Really good, really good. Highly recommend it.
I probably heard it from you, actually.
Maybe.
What is it, Sharon? What's the book about?
It's a guided journal with a Michael Singer, and he's got all these communications to you, look at how you do this and look at that and now journal about it, things like that.
Oh,
That's
that's
neat. So
cool.
guided journal. Oh,
Yeah, it's really good. I'm only like about not even a quarter through it, but I'm a big
What's it
journaler. So
Untethered Soul. I'm going to
Soul.
write that down.
yeah,
I'm going to write
Very
that down in
cool.
my notepad. In
there
my
you
digital-
go. Actually, oh, you're not going to use pen and paper, huh? Okay.
I don't have any right next to me.
I
That's
wrote
how-
mine on
and-
paper. Doo, doo, doo.
There we go. Got
Yeah,
it.
Feel those
Michael A.
trees.
Singer. And it says practices to journey beyond yourself.
Very
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It helps with reflection and also helps with us being aware of our thoughts, of what's around us, how we process our world, and being very aware of everything and going in deeper and deeper into who and what we really are, especially on a individual level and on a collective level. Yeah, it's really good.
Wow.
What I've done.
Oh my
so far.
gosh.
Self-help stuff. I'm addicted to that. Addicted to something that's,
Me too.
hypnosis, just anything I can do to try to get better at in myself is
get up.
important.
Get up, that fast track to the fifth dimension. Right?
Yeah, maybe that's what I would do it. I don't know, but I would feel like I need to work on something, so I'm working.
Hey, it's better than not. And Michelle, I know you got to go pretty soon.
I do. I have a
Yeah.
spirit circle.
Yay.
I told somebody about 2 months ago that I wasn't going to do mediumship anymore. And I immediately had people calling for mediumship readings, wanting spirit circles.
Yep.
Oh,
Have a little experience. Someone came into and I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
you cannot quit.
No, you cannot. No.
Oh my gosh, it cracked me up. I was like, okay. I was having like no mediumship or anything. So I'm like, good, I quit. And they're like, oh no, you're not.
You can't. You can't. It's in your
I love
blood.
it.
It's
The
in your
universe
blood.
decides for you sometimes, and sometimes it speaks through people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Kendra, do you have any parting words of wisdom or anything you'd like to share with everyone watching, with the thousands and thousands of people that are watching right now?
No, I don't have any wisdom. I'm working on that though. No,
I don't
no,
believe you.
They're real.
I just love spending this time with you guys. This is really fun. And it's what a nice show that you have here. And I love the natural energy. I hope that people that your viewers that see this feel connect to that naturalness and just learn to let go and just relax and just don't be so hard on themselves. Just have fun out there, and the universe will, it will show you the way. Sometimes if you just step back and go on a vacation, that's when I get my best ideas, when I'm really not trying to work at it. So
Right.
Very
the
true.
universe has our back. We just got to let it.
Good advice. Get out of our own way, kind of thing.
Exactly. And Kendra, this is really good. I feel like we've got a lot of stuff that we didn't get to talk to. So I would love for you to come back.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Sharon would too.
Yes. That's a no-brainer.
It's just,
So we would love to do that. We'll get you back again and talk about some of the other stuff, because my mind just started going whoosh with all the stuff that you're saying, because I never heard anyone really speak about it the way you have.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
Yes.
probably jumped around on so many different topics. I apologize, but when there's like, goodness, when it's
No,
like
we
45
roll,
or 50
man.
years of life of all of it's hard to know how to organize it and how to present it so that it's not scattered, because it's a lifetime, of stuff, but I'm happy to share anytime.
Oh, so cool. Well, you
And
know
we
what
interrupt you all
happens?
the time too. So
I know. Yeah, I'm like, I might have a personal question.
I never.
Well, and you know what happens a lot of times with these kind of experiences is we'll have an experience, but then we don't always understand kind of what it was all about until later, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it is kind of jumpy back and forth. So it's like, you know,
Mhm.
this happened here, but then I started to understand here, which meant this back here connected with
Right.
this, and then it starts making
Yeah.
sense, right?
Totally.
Exactly,
And
but it's
still
like-
ongoing. That's ongoing too.
And
Is
Yeah,
and learning
yeah.
more all the time. And you know, one
Yeah.
thing I want to tell your listeners or viewers too is how important journaling is. We were just talking about
Yes.
journaling,
Yes.
but that
you.
is been my saving grace for helping me have the memories that I have because I kept a journal during the time when the Grays visited for years.
Same here.
Um,
Oh,
So
wonderful.
it helps. It helps you when you write, you not only can process better, but it helps you remember better. It helps you then later connect the dots. You look back and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Now I get it. I know why that happened now. And at the
Right.
time you don't. So journaling's so important, especially for experiencers like us.
Oh yeah, it's critical. It really is to get all that information out, down, get it out of you, get it out.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Get
Some
Kendra's book,
link.
amazing book, the link by
Kendra Jonas, part of the Jonas brothers.
Except she's not her brother.
She's
Right.
a
They didn't know
mother.
they had a sister. They didn't know.
Oh yeah, I know. A sister, a Jonas
No.
sister.
They're
So you're
all
on
hybrids,
Amazon.
too.
It's on Amazon, right? Or where?
Yeah, it is. You can just
I'll-
Google it. It
Okay.
should come up.
Or yeah, and your website is
yeah.
www.kendrajonas.com,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
you
I'll
can
put
get
the
it
rest of
there.
your info down below. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you,
Thank
Kendra.
you, Kendra.
Thank
This
you,
was really
Tracy.
fun. You awakened some memories in me that was like, oh, maybe that was something.
Oh,
So,
good.
very
That's
cool. Thank you.
And so good to meet you, Michelle, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you for being here. This is fun. Let's do it again. Do it again.
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Mwah. Be good.
Mwah. Love you all.